Hello and welcome. This is your instructor, Dennis Westman, and today I want to talk a little bit about the next couple of sections in your textbook, which is Word Unit A and Word Unit B. And I just want to kind of highlight some items and elements in those two sections before you get started with the actual coursework. So if you would, as you've done in the past, please get your textbook out, and we're going to begin by looking on page Word Unit A1, which is creating documents with Word 2007. And it looks a little bit something like this. So in Unit A, you're essentially learning how to create documents with Word 2007. And a couple of key items to look at is on page Word 2, which is essentially talking about what a word processing software program is and how it's used. And I will definitely tell you that you'll be seeing the definition of what a word processing program is later on whenever we test over this particular program. So look at page Word 2 and you can see all the different items that the word processing software can do. And it really is a pretty thorough program. I suspect many of you are probably familiar with word processing simply because you've had to type papers, reports, and those kinds of things in various classes. So again, pay attention to Word page 2. Now looking at Word 4, this talks a little bit about the program window, and as I've mentioned in previous videos, you're using Word 2007. The college is switching to Word 2010 next semester, which will be the fall semester, and the screens are going to look very similar, but there are a couple of items that have changed or will change between the two versions. In this version, there is no longer a file menu option or even a file tab, but in Word 2010 Microsoft brought that back next to the Office button. So as you're looking at figure A-2, which is on page Word 5, it points out key elements of the Word screen, including the Office button. And again, if you take subsequent computer classes from Murray State College, you'll find that the Word 2010 is being used and that there is now a File tab to the left of the Home tab. But for this version, for this our purposes of this class, we're concentrating on 2007, so there is no longer a File button. So you have the Office button in the upper left-hand corner, and then you have the other items throughout the text on the screen. So that kind of talks a little bit about that. And then look on the bottom of page Word 5, you can see some common mouse pointers there. And then as we move through starting a document, essentially you click new or so on. You're going to be doing that through the exercises for the next few pages, including saving a document. And be sure to complete these activities even if they're not assigned to turn in, because these will definitely help you later on at the end of the chapter when you create and complete the independent challenges. Look at the bottom of page Word 10 and you can see the various ways for selecting text. I find this extremely helpful because I like to be able to quickly select certain items of text, and so this is really nice. I especially like the 1, 2, 3, the third option down, which is selecting a line of text, essentially just double clicking to the left of the line. I really like that. And then you've got some additional options. Word 13 shows some buttons for the mini toolbar. This is the little floating toolbar that hovers above usually what you've selected. I'm not a big fan. I usually turn that off, but in this book and in this class, you'll be using that. And then templates. Word 14 talks a little bit about templates. Definitely understand and know the term template at the top of page Word 14. Essentially, this is a pre-formatted document, and Microsoft Word has an extensive library of templates that I would encourage you to explore and use, and you'll use them in a couple of activities. And then if you look at the bottom of page Word 17, it talks about the different Word document views. Most of us probably operate in the print layout view, which gives us the view of the page with some blank space on the left and right and the top and the bottom, so you can kind of see what it'll look like on a page. And then there's some additional pages, including the full screen reading view, which I believe one of your exercises later on will ask you to utilize. And those are listed at the bottom of page Word 17, and then in the program, they're down in the lower right-hand corner of Microsoft Word. Okay, so that is all of Word section A. Now let's take a look at Word section B, which begins on page 25. The first part talks about cutting and pasting. This is in regards to editing a document. And most of you are probably familiar with cutting and pasting. I am a huge fan of keyboard shortcuts, so I use the items discussed on the bottom of page Word 27, which is Control-C, which is copy, and Control-V, as in Victor, which is paste. Again, a huge fan of keyboard shortcuts. The less amount of time I have to take my hands off the keyboard, the better, and so I use those keyboard shortcuts extensively. One of the things that you'll need to be mindful of and know the difference of is copy versus cut. Cut removes the item from one location and allows you to paste it in another location. Copy copies that item from one location and copies it into the new location, or pastes it into the new location. Copy keeps a copy in both places. Cut removes it from one and places it or pastes it into the new area. And that's talked about in Word 26, 27, 28, and so on. Pay careful attention to Word 28 down at the bottom, splitting the document window to copy and move items in a long document. Extremely important. You're going to see this later on as an activity, so make sure you're pretty comfortable with using the option to split a window screen, Microsoft Word screen. Most of you probably have never done this, and so you want to get a little practice in using the options to split the screen. And then there's something called the Office Clipboard on page Word 30, and this is essentially where you can put text and other items on the clipboard and open up additional documents and paste those items into the new documents. Extremely helpful whenever you're moving amounts of text from one document to the other. Finding and replacing is talked about on page 32 in Word, and it's a great way to quickly find certain phrases or words and replace those with a new set of phrases or words. I use it extensively whenever I need to find a certain word and replace it throughout an entire document, especially like maybe a company's name or something like that. Very, very helpful. And then Word 34 talks a little bit about checking your spelling and grammar. Just a little tidbit of information. Red means spelling error, and this is the little red wavy underline. That means spelling error, and if you have the green wavy underline, that means a grammar error. So red is spelling and green is grammar. Green, grammar. Kind of easy to remember. And it's important to note that the spell check and the grammar check, while pretty thorough, sometimes will miss items. So it's always a good idea to proofread your documents yourself and don't totally rely on the spelling and grammar check. It's gotten better, but always make plans to proofread the documents yourself. Word 36 talks a little about researching information, including the built-in thesaurus. Extremely helpful. You're going to have an activity where you will use that, so you'll definitely want to check on that. Word 38 talks about adding hyperlinks into a document. Again, you'll have an activity where you'll have to insert hyperlinks, so make sure you pay careful attention to page Word 38. And then Word 40 talks a little bit about preparing a document for distribution, including stripping away or adding document properties. This essentially allows you to replace information like the document title and so on. And you can also prepare the document and mark it as a final version so that others know that this is not a draft but the final copy. So I definitely want to look at that, because I believe you'll have an exercise where you'll be asked to prepare a document and replace a title and so on. So you definitely want to pay attention to that, as well as the bottom of page Word 41, which goes into much more detail about that. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to post to the discussion board, the lab questions, help each other out, and I'll check in on it as well. Or you can email me at my Murray State email address. Thank you, and have a great day.